Talk about the political fallout now with political strategist and senior advisor of Our Republican Legacy, Rina Shah, and co-founder and CEO of the Seneca Project, Tara Setmeyer. Thank you both for being with us. So Homeland Security Secretary Markwayne Mullin has not made any public statements since the shooting, unlike his predecessor, Kristi Noem, who was front and center during the shootings in Minneapolis. Do you think that's a mistake? Should Mullin be more public facing?
This is the first big shooting that's happened since Mullin took office, or took this role rather. And I think if he wants to save himself from being on the chopping block, he should lead with humanity. He should come out and say that mistakes happen like this, unfortunately. Look, if you want to be a proper conservative about this, I'm not talking the Trump era, MAGA era, but a compassionate conservative, you would say, I'm pro law and order, I'm not pro chaos. What this was chaos. And I think we saw an innocent man lose his life yet again at the hands of federal law enforcement that are frankly just doing their jobs. But this whole thing at the end of the day feels like yet another cover up, because the Trump administration's top people cannot admit where they fail.
Tara, your thoughts?
No, Rina's exactly right. When I was on Capitol Hill, I was a Republican staffer and worked on immigration issues. As a matter of fact, I was the lead congressional staffer that helped commute the sentences of 2 Border Patrol agents who were charged for shooting a drug smuggler, an illegal alien drug smuggler in Texas. And I became very familiar with the rules and regulations and the use of force continuum rules and all of that for the Department of Homeland Security, Border Patrol, CBP, ICE, all of that. And I've got to tell you that there were agents who went to prison for way less, for pushing people down with their foot, detainees down with their foot, for violation of civil rights under the color of law, for things that were nowhere close to taking the lives of people like this innocently. ICE is out of control. They are a disgrace to the badge. I come from a law enforcement family. My husband is a federal agent. My grandfather was a police officer in my hometown, captain 40 years. I take this very seriously. And the good people who are out there doing their jobs are looking at this and saying, what are we doing? And this administration continues to be to violate the civil rights of individuals in ways that would never have been okay before, and no one should be all right with it, particularly Republicans who claim to be the ones that say, oh, we're supposed to be the ones that are back the blue and we want to make sure that the laws are followed. These guys are vigilantes and they're killing innocent people, and they need to be held accountable for it.
I want to play some sound from Mullin's confirmation hearing, because he said that he wanted to keep ICE and Border Patrol out of the headlines. Let's listen.
My goal in 6 months is that we're not in the lead story every single day. My goal is for people to understand we're out there, we're protecting them, and we're working with them.
Is there something the administration could do at this point, Rina, to regain confidence, to regain credibility?
Well, right now, ICE agents who are, again, just doing their jobs are being painted out as reckless and evil. And all of them are sort of being looped into the same category as stormtroopers. And that puts a target on all of their backs, right? And then you think about the public. And I think of myself as a woman and how I approach law enforcement and my interactions with law enforcement. And what the congressman said about, being pulled over by unmarked vehicles, that doesn't feel safe. And I'm raising really small kids in this world. And I'm talking about how you go to law enforcement, you go to the police, you find officials when you do not feel safe. There are millions of Americans who have been here, are here, undocumented, and we have to accept that reality. I'm a daughter of legal immigrants. I take great offense to anyone that ever skips the line, but I also think this could have been a great chance for a reset by Mullin. And so if he's the right guy for the job, which we were told he was after Noem, then he needs to come back, backtrack, and do something major. Make a grand gesture and come out and take responsibility.
That would be great if we had people who actually cared about real immigration policy and actually upholding the civil liberties of people in this country. Stephen Miller is driving this train here. These people are xenophobic. They are dehumanizing immigrants in this country. There are so many other policy ways that we could be fixing the illegal immigration problem. This is not it. They are going into cities and terrorizing communities. And that is because they have another agenda. That agenda is not to be welcoming to immigrants. What Markwayne Mullin was saying, it was all just cover for this larger, more sadistic approach to trying to put forth Stephen Miller's vision of America, which is one that doesn't include people who look like me, you, or Rina. And that's the reality of this. We need to put it in context and stop looking at this as if this is just a policy disagreement. It's not. It's a much bigger, more dangerous ideology that MAGA and Trump and Stephen Miller and the Mark Wayne Mullins of the world, you can put lipstick on a pig all you want, but their underlying policies are still really, really disgraceful and dangerous in this country, the way they're treating people who are not white Christian
I mean, speaking of policies for just a second, a very solution-oriented thing they could do this week is go back and address tactics and training for these agents. Because I am so concerned about the innocent people all through federal service who are being tainted just because of really the stench of Trumpism that reeks from people like Stephen Miller. So if we want to talk solutions, it's tactics and training for agents nationwide.
Absolutely. If they cared about that, that's the problem. They don't. They're pushing people through training who are unqualified. We saw this earlier in the year because of what was happening with Kristi Noem and the disaster that she was at DHS, that there are a lot of unqualified people who have no business having a badge and a gun that are going out here and killing people on the streets of America.
Tara and Rena, please stand by. Much more to discuss. Up next, President Trump punishing his